Highs back in the 40s. We'll be back at 6. Now to CBS.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Church of England hostage negotiator Terry Waite tonight is back in Beirut. This is his first time back since President Reagan's effort at paying ransom to Iran was exposed in November. Waite has returned amid new reports that kidnappers who still hold 16 foreigners in Lebanon may be ready to deal again. Richard Wagner in London reports.
Terry Waite had declined to return to Beirut for more than 2 months for reasons of personal safety, but now, with his security assured by Muslim gunmen, Waite has returned.
Signs are being given to me that now is a reasonable time to come back.
Waite said helping to free the 6 Americans still held hostage or missing in Beirut is a major part of his mission, although it's believed one of the missing, U.S. Embassy officer William Buckley, has been killed. Waite's acknowledged revelations about the U.S. arms deal with Iran have slowed his efforts, and he repeated today he knew nothing of that now not-so-secret deal.
If even the American government had approached me about arms dealing, which they didn't, I would have had absolutely nothing to do with it, because I believe it's wrong to trade in arms for human life.
It was Terry Waite who was instrumental in securing the release of American hostage David Jacobson in November. Today, Jacobson said Waite's return to Beirut was a sign of hope for the remaining American hostages. He didn't go there just for the plane ride, said Jacobson. Joan Sutherland is the daughter of hostage Thomas Sutherland.
Our whole family's put everything we have, all of our strength and all of our trust and hopes into Terry Waite.
Despite Terry Waite's past success, his current mission has no guarantees, although there has already been one encouraging sign. CBS News has learned just hours after his arrival in Beirut, Waite was contacted at his hotel by a person who helped him arrange earlier hostage releases. Richard Wagner, CBS News, London.
For the third time this month, Israeli planes bombed Lebanon today. The targets were Palestinian guerrilla strongholds in the hills near Sidon, recently seized by the PLO from the Shiite Amal militia. Police said at least 5 people were killed, 14 wounded. Israel said its planes returned safely. Today was President Reagan's first working day at the office in more than a week, his first since his surgery. It included more efforts at Iran scandal damage control, beginning with an apology to Israel. CBS News White House correspondent Bill Plant reports why.
Peace. President Reagan has offered Israeli Prime Minister Shamir what amounts to an official apology for releasing a memo which pointed out that Israel initiated the idea of selling arms to Iran. Israeli sources tell CBS News that Mr. Reagan's message, delivered to the Prime Minister, says the U.S. was not trying to embarrass or blame Israel for the initiative, and specifically makes the point that the U.S. government is solely responsible for its own activities. The memo to the president, prepared by Oliver North, refers repeatedly to the Israeli plan to help bring about a more moderate government in Iran and get U.S. hostages released. The release of the memo and the subsequent U.S. explanation indicate that U.S.-Israeli relations are in a state one analyst calls disrepair.
Looks like a fiasco, and the extent to which the Israelis may have been responsible for it suggests that maybe the Israelis aren't such a good and strategic asset for us in the Middle East after all.
An Israeli journalist who was shown the report of the Senate Intelligence Committee says it's plain his country was responsible for the idea.
From this report you can learn that Israel started the initiative, Israel pushed this initiative, Israel pressed the Americans to continue this initiative.
With so many questions still surrounding the Iran-Contra affair, the Reagan administration today appointed a new spokesman to do the answering. Marlon Fitzwater, the vice president's press secretary and a career government press officer, will take over February 2nd from Larry Speaks, who's leaving government.
We are doing the people's business here. We should be able to explain what we're doing.
So far, though, the president hasn't had much success in explaining what he was doing. He still insists he wants to get the facts out promptly. But his advisors admit that until Admiral Poindexter and Colonel North testify, it'll be difficult to clear up questions about where the money went and why no one challenged the idea, whose ever idea it may have been. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
The Central Intelligence Agency today denied a New York Times report that the United States has been conducting another systematic campaign of lying, a so-called disinformation campaign, this time an effort to feed doctored intelligence reports to both Iran and Iraq. The supposed purpose of feeding them both phony information to keep either country from winning the long war. The CIA says the story is false. At the White House, spokesman Larry Speake said, and I quote, "I don't have that information." But CBS News State Department correspondent Bill McLaughlin has been told that both Iran and Iraq were given misleading U.S. intelligence reports. In the case of Iraq, edited satellite photos. In the case of Iran, purposely inflating the importance of Soviet troops stationed near Iran's border. The Iran arms debacle broke into the open after someone in Iran leaked out the true story about U.S. arms double-dealing. Even before that, there was deep concern among the White House planners over whether the secret could be kept, especially when they were dealing with people of questionable honesty. Pentagon correspondent David Martin has learned some of what went on.
Oliver North told associates he had threatened to kill Iranian middleman Monaker Ghorbanifar if word of the secret arms for hostages deal leaked out. One source involved in the Iran arms deal said North told Ghorbanifar, "I'm going to give you a chance to become a martyr." Although there is no evidence North ever attempted to make good on his threat, he and other U.S. officials distrusted the Iranian because intercepts by the National Security Agency of phone calls Ghorbanifar made to Iran revealed he was misrepresenting arrangements agreed to in meetings they attended. In the intercepts, Ghorbanifar talked to a man he called Kangaroo, who U.S. officials believed to be Hashemi Rafsanjani, leader of the so-called moderate faction which favored contacts with the U.S. Ghorbanifar also failed CIA lie detector tests when he was asked if he had discussed the secret deal with anyone else. Despite the evidence that Ghorbanifar could not be trusted, President Reagan decided it was members of Congress who could not be trusted and ordered CIA Director Casey not to inform them.
We knew this undertaking involved great risks, especially for our people and for the Iranian officials with whom we dealt. That's why the information was restricted to appropriate cabinet officers and those officials with an absolute need to know.
According to one source, Ghorbanifar finally admitted compromising the operation by revealing it to the Ayatollah Montazeri, leader of the hardline faction which opposed contacts with the U.S. Montazeri is believed to be the Iranian official who leaked to this Beirut newspaper the story of former National Security Advisor Robert McFarlane's secret trip to Tehran. While there is no evidence North was serious about killing Ghorbanifar, sources say the death threat typifies the atmosphere of impatience, frustration, and distrust in which North was operating. David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.
Both Iran and Iraq reported killing thousands of each other's troops today. Iraq says it has trapped an invading force of 100,000 Iranians, but Iran reports it is securing its foothold in Iraqi territory and has fought off several counterattacks. Iran claims that since it began its latest offensive last Friday, more than 16,000 Iraqis have been killed or wounded. Still to come on the CBS Evening News, a federal report on what to do about workers thrown into permanent unemployment by our changing economy, and personal bankruptcy as an alternative to paying those credit card bills.
By this time tomorrow morning, I've got to be on location 500 miles from here. No limo for me. I like driving too much. This Mazda 626 Coupe has a fuel-injected overhead cam power plant that just loves to run. There's also a very sophisticated suspension system that really takes the kinks out of corners. You could easily pay $6 grand more for one of those European road cars and not get a better car. But if it make you feel any better, you can always send the money to me. My address is 337...
I want a laxative that leaves me in control all day with no surprises.
Think Fiberall. Think relief. Doctors recommend most the kind of laxative that's in Fiberall wafers. Every great-tasting Fiberall wafer has the natural fiber remedy that relieves gently, without any worry.
I want effective relief with no harsh chemicals that can cramp my style.
Think Fiberall. Think relief. When Fiberall's outside, there's a great-tasting wafer for natural relief inside. Fiberall wafers, natural fiber remedy for natural relief, also in powder.
General Electric and General Motors today announced a total of 5,000 layoffs. Both companies say they are cutting their labor forces in answer to tough foreign competition and a changing U.S. economy. Workers whose jobs have been wiped out by those conditions were the subject of a report today from one of President Reagan's advisory panels, and Bruce Morton reports.
Displaced workers are not the ones laid off in bad times, rehired in good. They are the ones whose jobs have vanished forever when the robots took over, when the plant whistle sounded for the last time, when the mill shut down.
We look upon this group of displaced workers as really the veterans of economic warfare.
There are a lot of veterans. More than 5 million jobs disappeared from 1981 to 1986. Today's report says telling workers early that their jobs are over is important. So is retraining.
3 types of requirements to rent a car.
General Motors offers retraining to people it's laid off. Sandy Coop is studying to be a travel agent.
So if I didn't have the retraining program, I'm not sure where I would be. Maybe going to welfare.
Sandra Riffle has graduated to a job with Eagle Enterprises. GM says about 1 laid-off employee in 5 signs up for training, most in other industries.
Most people are going to find themselves required to change occupations 3 times and jobs 6 to 7 times during their careers.
The report says private industry does the best job of training people, and some companies work very hard at it.
Right here.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Xerox runs this retraining center just outside Leesburg, Virginia. These service people are learning how to service a new product. And these management students, already managers, are being groomed to move up the ladder. The company trains people not to lay them off, but to keep them as a way of meeting foreign competition.
They're very good, and we have to be better. And one of the ways you do that is through training and educating your people.
Today's report calls for almost $600 million in new government spending, but beyond specifics, the authors want to put the need for retraining on the nation's mind, on its list of important things to do.
In fact, education and training must become as much a part of the job as the vacation each year.
Otherwise, the unemployment lines will be very long. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Leesburg, Virginia.
Okay.
The problems of displaced workers in need of retraining are not the only reversals of tradition in today's economy. Take the matter of personal bankruptcy. Once, not so long ago, that phrase stood for shame and a good deal of pain. But as CBS News correspondent John Blackstone reports, that's not necessarily true anymore.
American consumers long ago discovered the joy of credit. Buy now, pay later. But for an ever-increasing number of consumers, the principle has become buy now, pay never.
This meeting of creditors will now come to order.
Bankruptcy courts across the country are crowded as never before. 500,000 Americans claimed bankruptcy in 1986, a 33% increase over 1985.
Instead of having 20 or 30 cases on calendar for a day, we have 70 or 80.
In California last year, the number of personal bankruptcies was more than 40% higher than in 1985, even though the state had one of the strongest economies in the country.
Bankruptcy today, in many places, doesn't carry the stigma that it used to.
We make bill collectors leave you alone, and that means leave you alone.
Aggressive advertising by lawyers is one reason bankers give for the increase in bankruptcies.
Pick up your phone and dial. No bills.
But lawyers say banks are to blame. They've made it too easy to get a pocket full of credit cards.
I don't think they're that concerned. I think their figures show them if they take a loss in bankruptcy, it's nothing compared to the profitability.
Credit cards charging up to 20% interest are so profitable that banks have eagerly expanded the business. The result? People who probably shouldn't have any credit cards have many. Spendermenders is sort of an Alcoholics Anonymous for people who can't handle credit. But people usually don't show up until they're in deep trouble, in deep debt. Then bankruptcy beckons as the easy way out. Too easy, some say, since changes in the law in 1978 removed much of the sting.
They're allowed to keep so much of their property that filing a petition in bankruptcy is an easy decision for them.
Jim and Sherry Napoleon spent only 90 seconds before the bankruptcy trustee. Their debts were wiped out.
It was just so easily done.
I don't feel good about it. But there comes to a point where you're in a hole so deep. I mean, what do? I think that sometimes a second chance is necessary.
This year, at least 700,000 Americans are expected to claim that second chance as the bankruptcy rate rises again. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
The United States Supreme Court today rejected an effort to make tobacco companies liable for health damage to smokers. The justices left intact a lower court ruling, a ruling that a smoker could not sue cigarette makers for alleged failure to give adequate health warnings. Federal investigators near Baltimore today performed a test run of 3 Conrail locomotives similar to those involved in a collision with an Amtrak passenger train earlier this month. 15 people died in that crash and 176 were injured. One purpose of today's test run was to see if the sun could have interfered with the engineer's view. The Conrail locomotive rolled right on past a stop signal on the day of the accident.
When you get a cold or an allergy,
you need some herbal tea.
You also get a lot of advice.
What you want to do is feed a cold.
A lot of advice.
Take Judy to call me in the morning.
But the best advice is what doctors have said millions of times. Take Dimetapp. Dimetapp in non-prescription formulas brings proven relief. So take the advice of doctors and pharmacists.
The tea works. Huh?
And take Dimetapp, the best advice you can take.
How come your coffee is darker than mine?
Mine's decaffeinated Folgers crystals, and yours is the decaffeinated you've been drinking for years.
Mine's weaker looking.
See these dark, sparkling crystals made from Folgers mountain-grown coffee.
Smells really rich.
Alice, looks and aroma are one thing, but how does it taste?
Have a sip.
Mountain grown. Alice, you're right, as usual.
Now I know why I married you. You're so sensible.
Decaffeinated Folgers crystals, so dark and rich. Shouldn't you switch?
From Spain all the way to Siberia, this is the worst winter in many years. 2 weeks of bitter cold, snow, and wind have left 60 people dead, most of them in the Soviet Union. The Soviet state of Georgia is under 15 feet of snow. Cars and trains have been buried and hundreds of people stranded. In London, last night was the coldest in 40 years as the temperature went down to 16 degrees. It even muffled Big Ben, freezing the machinery that rings the ancient chimes in the clock tower. The storms reached as far south as Naples, Italy, where hurricane-force winds and high tides battered the waterfront. The British government has launched another new campaign trying to warn people about deadly AIDS. But some say the message is so understated, it isn't getting through. Tom Fenton is in London.
You could be forgiven for thinking this is the filming of a new Spielberg movie, or that this is an ad for Italian summer fashions. Neither is what it seems. Both are advertisements aimed at educating the British public about the danger of AIDS. So was this commercial, but when it was seen in Scotland, most viewers thought it was a gardening ad. The problem with these ads is that they pull so many punches, the public appears to be missing the point.
Well, there's a picture of a volcano, isn't there? What's that got to do with AIDS?
They're too frightened of offending people by using words, rude words and things.
Today, millions of leaflets are being mailed out to every household in the country. But a Church of England bishop complains that the language is too scholarly and ought to be written like a comic strip.
I mean, who's going to read all this? You really want strip cartoons with balloons out of people's mouths or something like that.
AIDS in Britain is now spread beyond homosexuals and drug users. Because of this, the campaign is aimed at educating everyone in the country.
There is now a danger that has become a threat to us all.
Local radio stations are blitzing Britain.
It's a crisis for everyone.
There are helplines and health lines and information packages for schools.
The number of cases is doubling every 8 to 12 months.
Right across the country, the British are being subjected to what is probably the most intensive AIDS information campaign in the world. But we discovered they don't seem to be paying attention.
Well, people aren't taking any notice of it, are they, really?
I don't think the majority are going to take much notice. Just carry on living life as it is, and doesn't happen that often. It's just built up, making a lot out of nothing, I think.
I think it's one of those things where you think, it's not going to happen to me.
Why should we need it now? We're married.
After a couple of weeks of this campaign, the public is unlikely to die of ignorance, as the government ads warn. Being British, they're more likely to die of indifference. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
Prince Edward of England at least knows what he doesn't want. The youngest son of Queen Elizabeth has thrown in the towel. He's resigned from the tough Royal Marines after 4 months of training and a weekend of family discussions.
Piedmont Airlines presents a phone number so valuable, you'll never forgive yourself if you don't write it down.
The pen.
This is the number that'll get you airfares so low, you'll find them hard to believe.
Case has got to be a pen, right?
Hang on, we're looking. And you'll also get Piedmont service that's been rated among the best in the industry. So call Piedmont today.
I got it.
What could be simpler?
runny nose, watery eyes, congestion, and a headache. When you've got all these sinus symptoms all together, you've got sinus complex. And that's too complex a problem for most cold or sinus remedies. You need maximum strength Sinutab, specially developed to relieve all the symptoms of sinus complex. Sinutab, you'll feel altogether better. And take new Sinutab nighttime at night to feel altogether better in the morning.
What happens in Chicago often affects politics nationwide, so a report tonight on a hot political contest that's both a rematch and a shouting match, the follow-up to the race for mayor of Chicago that drew national attention in 1983. The feuding hasn't stopped since. CBS News correspondent Frank Courier reports on the Chicago mayor's race 1987 and what's become of a once mighty political machine.
If he were alive today, people say, former Mayor Richard Daley would be shocked. Chicago's legendary political machine is stalled, and this winter's race for mayor, like the city council, is a screaming free-for-all.
What the hell have we come to? A Gestapo running this place? God damn it! We have a right to speak!
Chaos, with a campaign officially underway today. Even Chicagoans are confused without a scorecard. Feisty former Mayor Jane Byrne is running as a Democrat.
Let me tell you, you're going to see a fight.
But Ed Brodoliak, the chairman of the Democratic Party, is a third-party candidate. And career Democrat Tom Hines heads a fourth-party ticket. Still another, Don Hyder, just turned Republican. All are challenging the incumbent Democrat, Chicago's first black mayor, Harold Washington, in the April general election.
I think they should all run. Put them all in the pot. I think it's good.
After more than 40 years in power, the Cook County Democratic machine is falling apart.
Gone to pieces because blacks, now 40% of Chicago's population, are a powerful independent bloc united behind Washington, while feuding factions of mostly white Democrats are divided in an atmosphere of anybody but Harold.
What is wrong with us? We are Chicago. Nothing wrong with us.
Though given little chance of winning, the flamboyant Ed Brodoliak still excites Chicago's white ethnic working class, while kidding around or trading barbs with arch-enemy Washington.
Harold Washington says I won't run. Well, guess what? I'm running.
Good. I dare him. I dare him.
After losing a three-way contest for mayor 4 years ago, Jane Byrne knows the only way to beat Washington in the February 24th primary is one-on-one, and TV could make the difference.
It was known as America's most livable city under Byrne. Now it's Beirut on the lake.
Mayors in Chicago have always reflected the city. The big issue now is who reflects the city more, Harold Washington or Jane Byrne.
While Washington leads in most polls, pundits predict a near photo finish with Byrne. A race not decided till the last vote is counted. And as usual, said one, perhaps counted more than once. Frank Courier, CBS News, Chicago.
What was that?
The boogeyman from the Black Lagoon.
There's something out there.
Don't worry, as long as the lights are on, we're fine. What do we do now? Run for your life!
It's time to change your light bulb. Philips Longer Life Square bulbs last 33% longer than ordinary round bulbs.
Constipation is disaster.
Gene Wright talks about Dulcolax laxatives.
My doctor suggested that I try Dulcolax, and I did, and I was very happy.
Predictable Dulcolax, tablets and suppositories.
Dulcolax has never let me down.
This is an AT&T long-distance command center where our engineers make sure your calls go right through. It's a unique system only AT&T can bring you, with thousands of ways to get from here to there. And there are 7 more centers like it, because we're not about to take chances that busy circuits could keep you waiting.
Well, she definitely has my hair.
For over 100 years, when you reached out, we were there. And you can keep it that way. AT&T, the right choice.
I've got osteoarthritis. Good thing there's Anacin.
Doctors recommend Anacin for relief of occasional minor pains of osteoarthritis for hours.
To Anacin, and that takes care of the pain.
Doctor recommended Anacin, now coated caplets too.
Sure, like everybody else, we're talking football today, but there's also the story of 2 state-of-the-art sailboats that will cross the starting line tomorrow in the stiff winds off Western Australia. The winner of the best-of-7 series will challenge Australia for the America's Cup. Barry Peterson has our report.
Stars and Stripes, the last American boat, the last American hope in the elimination races to see who will face Australia. Skipper Dennis Conner, who lost the cup last time around, wants to win back the cup, win back his pride.
Don't be surprised to see that cup right back at home in America where it belongs.
For inspiration, the crew made a rock video.
Good day there, mates. We got business to do. January's date. You got something of ours you're going to have to give up. Of course, we're talking about America's Cup.
But Conner must beat upstart New Zealand, the odds-on favorite. And if they win, it will be New Zealand versus Australia. A devastating blow to American pride, a devastating blow to those down under who hoped for a big event that would make them big bucks. Australian businessmen are rooting for the Americans and their tourist dollars, because up to now, America's Cup business has not runneth over. Fremantle and WA, Western Australia, spent millions getting ready for you-know-who.
What do we say to the USA when they step upon our shores?
G'day, WA. G'day.
But it's been a bad day so far. Not many Americans, so plenty of empty hotel rooms and vacant tables at Fremantle restaurants. Even charter boats are slashing prices, hoping to keep the bottom from falling out of their failing business.
We figured that all these wonderful Americans would come rushing over here to watch it here. And it just hasn't happened that way.
In a few days, New Zealand or America will know who goes against Australia for the Cup, who goes home. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Fremantle.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, thank you for joining us. Good night.
The guys at Car and Drive are pretty impressed with the Mazda 323. They know what they're talking about. They say, and I quote, "It conveys a feeling of structural integrity and heft that belies its small size," unquote. What they're saying is, it's a small road car. They also say, quote, "It's one impressive machine, not only a solid driving package, but a solid value as well," unquote. I tell everybody it's the best small car I've ever driven. Of course, nobody ever quotes me.
When it's cold and rough outside, try something warm and creamy inside. Cream of wheat hot cereal and instant mix and eat. Their smooth texture always lets the flavor come through. 2 great ways to come in from the cold.
Put on the Plus.
Now, help prevent dry, chapped lips with new Chapstick Petroleum Jelly Plus. Plus aloe, plus lanolin, plus a special angled tip. New Chapstick Petroleum Jelly Plus.
Put on the Plus.
Robitussin Night Relief not only puts your cold to sleep, it lets you wake up feeling better and ready to go. Night Relief, the nighttime cold medicine from Robitussin.
Money for the Contras, discovered in Swiss banks. How hard is it to open a secret account? Robert Krulwich finds out tomorrow on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.
The TV8 News, live at 6. Next.
Is winter going to stop you cold? No way. Fight back with Ford's Traction Action. Do it now and save during your Ford dealer's Traction Action Days. The new shape of tough. Save over $1,800 on 4x4 F-150. Or Ranger, get $3,900 financing or $500 cash back. Bronco 2, $3,900 or $600 cash back. 4x4 Traction Action. Get it now. Save at your local Ford dealer today.
High technology at discount prices. World Radio made that promise in 1935, and year after year for 52 years, that's exactly what it's been. The right products at the right price.
World Radio's 52nd anniversary sale is the one you don't want to miss. Our entire reputation is on the line during the sale, so the savings are spectacular. We're out to prove that